Yep.
We are recording for Guardians spoiler review. Action. Oh, now you're waiting for me?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay, quiet on set. Here we go. Ready, set, and go.
All right. Welcome, everybody, once again to the final credits. We have a review for you today. Long time coming. It's been out a few weeks now. Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3. Lot to unpack here. So let's just dive right into it. And before we do, we will warn you, there are spoilers going to be discussed in this video. So just take heed before you move forward, but we do encourage you to watch. With that being said,
these are Pancake's favorite videos, so he can't get in trouble for spoiling anything.
So Pancakes, you have the green light. We are talking spoilers. It's happening.
We're letting him out of the
right
cage.
here. It's okay. It's okay.
Go all out, man. This is your moment. You've been training all your life for this one moment. So, all right, let's dive in. Let's start with the story, right? James Gunn's final Marvel movie, final Guardians of the Galaxy movie. It's his swan song before he moves over to DC, as we all know. So I think he went out with a bang, right? So story-wise, I think there was a lot of good closure here, right? A lot of focus on Rocket, his backstory, a lot of stuff going on with between Gamora and Star-Lord, everything that happened in Endgame and onward. So what do you guys think with like how everything kind of played out and how everything was written?
Well, I'm kind of happy that you brought up the things with Endgame and such with that, because there was an article that I saw fairly recently about James Gunn, or at least others like surrounding James Gunn, speaking about how, well, crap, it doesn't matter like how like good and phenomenal like Infinity War and Endgame was. Now I kind of have to clean up the mess that they started with this, because he has basically said, my Star-Lord would never punch Thanos in the face and ruin the galaxy like that. He would never do anything.
I saw that. I disagree with that, but
I am simply the messenger right here. Yeah. I don't know. I don't care. But at the same time, he does have a little bit of merit with that. And even though he has like a couple of things to like clean up with this now with his final installment, I think I said it the first night, and I agree with it. I honestly believe that this was the strongest one that he's done, even though he's had to clean up a couple of things, and unfortunately just had to use Twitter a little bit to explain himself, which I will be getting into later, because not cool with that. But having said that, yeah, still stand by what I said. This was still the strongest one.
Absolutely. Pancakes, what about you? Since you're so eager to let loose on the spoilers right now.
So it's okay. I can do spoilers. Just want to double check. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
With the story itself, I like that Rocket's backstory took center stage, or was the main arc that pushed the narrative of the movie going forward. We get why he has this edgy personality, why he doesn't seem like he has a care in the world when he does care. The very dark backstory of Rocket was well done. This innocent creature that was tortured and manipulated by the madman villain, who is very good, by the way. That was a scene stealer. But yeah. but Rocket's story was so heartbreaking that I'm glad he went down the dark route to see the background of why that he is a legitimate raccoon that was taken from Earth, and he was grown, and he had these smarts, and he was a super genius. That's the heart and soul of the Guardians. Another thing I like with the narrative that we see a Gamora lost in time, and James route did not take the predictable route that Star-Lord and Gamora were going to end up back together. They teased it. She was slowly warming up to it, but he had to let it go in the end to realize that this wasn't his Gamora. Unfortunately, his Gamora is long gone, that he lost in Infinity War. But edgy Gamora was certainly an interesting aspect of the story. What
I
else
think
do
she
you guys
gave
have
her
to-
strongest. I think her actress. I'm drawing a blank on her name.
Zoe Saldana.
Zoe Saldana gave her
Johnny.
definitely gave her her strong. I know gave her strongest performance as Gamora in this movie compared to all of her other appearances. In my opinion.
Really? You think this was her strongest performance?
The scene where she goes off on Peter on Quill, like when she just had enough with him trying to make her remember something that she doesn't have memories of. Like I actually I sided with her because she when they were in the ship and she was just like, I don't know who what Gamora you think I am, like that is not me, and she had like that scowl on her face and she was just really just letting him have it and everything. You knew it was like breaking his heart, but it's like at the same time like he needed to hear that. And I felt like that was just like one of like her most
But that's
powerful
because
scenes.
he didn't understand it. Like you're trying to, like you said before, you're trying to remind someone of memories that they don't have.
Right.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
But he's going at it in the wrong sense. Instead of starting new and saying, hey, let's start from the beginning again, right? I'm Star-Lord, you're Gamora, let's go out and do something. He didn't do that. Instead, he's trying to remind somebody that they don't have any idea of what the hell he's talking about. So that was the very, I feel like that was very, very Star-Lord-esque because it was like almost like he was being a child that was told, no, you can't do this, but you're still trying to do this. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, which is one of the reasons why I do disagree with James Gunn with what you were saying before, Big Grim, that he saw what he did in Infinity War when he caused the events of Infinity War to happen, when he hit Thanos in the face, when he heard that Gamora died. I think that's in character for him. And like Spade, with what you were saying with like how he acts like a child, like that's just how he can be sometimes.
Yep.
He sees a situation and makes him feel a certain way, and he just kind of just goes right into it, and with or without thinking. So yeah, you could definitely sympathize with him. It was the love of his life. He knows she's dead, and then all of a sudden she's back after 5 years.
Right.
I'm sure that would make anybody feel a certain way. He's probably wouldn't be thinking straight. But at the same time, like I said, her performance, what she was like telling him, like he needed to hear that. And like Pancakes, I agree with you. Like I was happy with the direction that they took in the end, that they didn't end up together. That they had that little moment where they were standing back to back, like facing opposite directions. And she was like, I bet we were fun. And he was like, yeah, we really were. And they went their separate ways. And I thought that was a really good, strong end to that whole story between the two of them. Like he can move on. She can move on. She's with the Ravagers now. I don't know how everybody feels about that, but that's her new family, her new life now.
Well,
but
think about it. It kind of makes sense because what was she doing prior to being a Guardian of the Galaxy?
She was working for Thanos, her adopted father.
Exactly. Right. So what are the Ravagers doing? They're doing like similar stuff to Thanos, except not trying to take over the universe. They're just plundering. They're stealing. They're taking whatever.
They're space pirates.
Yeah, that's what they are. So in essence, why would she not join the Ravagers?
Yeah.
Yo, Gamora, do you want to join the Ravagers?
Yes, the Savagers.
They do what she
Ravagers.
Uh-huh.
They do what 2014 Gamora knows how to do, but they give her that extra sense of like love and family, which I think she's just craving so much. So that I think that was a good. In my opinion, that was a very good thing. I remember seeing like here and there, like on the internet, some people were with it, some people weren't. But,
so is it safe to say? Is it safe to say that James Gunn pulled a page out of the Fast and Furious saga?
No.
Family.
And said it's all about family? Definitely is.
You know what? Speaking of Vin Diesel, I wanted to get into a couple of the characters first, but since we're on the subject of Vin Diesel, so with Groot, so we finally heard some vocabulary from him that didn't consist of just "I am" or "we are Groot."
No. That's what he said. He said, "I am Groot," but since you've seen it so many times, you understand Groot now. That's
I'm just saying that was a pretty big scene near the end too, where you finally hear him, like you finally understand him as a viewer the way that everybody else in the movie does. You hear him say I love you guys or something like that.
Yeah,
just like I was just like, whoa, what? I think all of us were like, what? That just happened.
No, but I do really enjoy though that because like it's been said before, this is not the same Groot from the first Guardians. This is like a brand new Groot.
Right.
I do love though that we literally saw this group growing up around this family, and literally we saw everyone. At first, it's like, oh, it's a language barrier kind of thing. No, it isn't. It's actually listening to like someone and understanding them, because we actually saw from Gamora, who this is the past Gamora, whatever you want to call her, had no idea what Groot was actually saying up until the very end of the movie. She was very much like Quill in
like I enjoyed working
Guardians,
with you.
Which I gotta say, I gotta bring this up. If we're talking characters now, I gotta bring this up. I love this iteration of Groot more than Guardians 1 Groot, because this is like the one that grew up around the Guardians. This is
a better bond.
I don't care what anyone says. This is Rocket's son. And what does Rocket know most about? Weapons. So this is the Groot that is holding every gun in a scene that we did actually see, which I loves. He just whips out 4 guns and just goes to town on people. I'm like, that's the Groot that we know. I love it. Absolutely, yes. Honestly, Groot was probably one of my favorite characters in this. Straight up.
What did you think of his flying ability when him and Peter escaped from the villain ship?
I thought it came out of nowhere, but at the same time, I just looked at everyone. I was just like, yeah, okay, fits. Why not? Cool. Let's give him plant wings. Oh god, I loved it though.
I think the best character in this volume is the main character of this one, and it has to be Rocket.
Of course,
yes.
Rocket is the best character. Because look,
let's talk about Rocket.
Yep, let's get into it.
When you watch every single movie, you think differently of who the main characters are for that movie. Mm-hmm. When you watch 3 and then you're like, you know what, let me watch 1, 2, and then 3, you realize that all 3 movies, it was actually a Rocket story, even though you had Star-Lord and everybody else. It's a Rocket movie. Like, we got more into Rocket's personality and his origins in all 3 movies, more so than everyone else when you really get down to it. So the fact that we kind of got like the beginning and almost the end of his story, I think this was by far probably James Gunn's best work.
Yeah,
and I've seen most of his movies.
But you know what? It was his story. It was set in the movie itself. It's your story. You just don't realize it yet. That was like he was the protagonist, and not just of this movie. I think secretly of the entire trilogy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The whole trilogy was all Rocket. It's just that we were looking at it from Star-Lord's perspective.
And I think like part of James Gunn's,
at the very least, for the first one, I feel like yes, in the first one though, like every character is introduced, and you need to know everyone's backstory a little bit in order for them to work as a team. Which is kind of why I say the first one is literally the perfect Dungeons and Dragons party. Straight up. Because you literally have people coming in from different backgrounds with different abilities, sharing a common goal, even though they come from all walks of life, and they're just a beautiful disaster. Like, straight up.
Misfits. Absolutely.
It literally is. Okay. A little controversial, but I'm gonna say I think the Guardians of the Galaxy is probably a better Dungeons and Dragons party.
I was going to ask you
of what we got in the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Yes,
I'm gonna be honest.
He said you heard it here first.
Wow,
listen.
That's great. I was going to ask you that.
Yeah,
as a joke though. I didn't think you would actually say that.
No, man. But honestly, you think about it. They come from literally all walks of life. There's a meme out there.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
The Guardians of the Galaxy is actually a Dungeons and Dragons party that the Avengers are playing. If that makes any sense. Because Bruce Banner is just in the background doing like all kinds of work. And they're like, Bruce, what are you doing? And he just looks back and he's like, I am Groot. Yeah, back to work. Okay. You have Black Widow playing as Gamora with like this huge like background and everything. Tony is obviously playing Rocket with just like, fuck that. I'm gonna shoot guns and everything. Like literally, the list goes on. But like I said, they just come from such backgrounds. I'm gonna say like the main character for the first movie, honestly, is the Guardians themselves. Like every one of
It's
them
an
is the
ensemble.
main character. Yes.
Yeah. I think that
An
I was gonna say
ensemble
before, I think
cast.
that's part of James Gunn's like genius with like writing these movies. Is that I mean, the Guardians is like this trilogy is his baby, number one. So like he put
Absolutely.
his all into it. But like I'd love like what makes this work is like a part 3 because usually like threequels like or especially with superhero movies like they just go off the rails. I think what made this work so well is just that he knew to plant the seeds in the first 2 movies about like Rocket's backstory. Like in the first movie, you saw that like when they were in the jail, like Peter noticed like he had like stuff on his back, like like coming out of his back. Like he thought that was weird. Then there was the other scene in that movie where he was Rocket was drunk and he was like he called me vermin and
yes,
like
absolutely.
and like like I got you don't know what it's like to be torn apart and put back together over and over again, all that stuff. So you knew off the bat that something was up with this guy. Like there's a reason why he's a talking raccoon, but he's like there's a reason for it, and it's not pretty. And even in the second movie too, his little dialogue with Yondu, and Yondu was like, "You are me because I know like when I was young, like I was the same way as you, that I had a chip on my shoulder and." I did all this just to hide the fact that I couldn't, express my feelings, all that stuff. So like he was building up to this from day one. And now he came out like with the full backstory, like and all of its dark, heartbreaking glory. And so I do want to jump into that really quick before we start like tampering off into other topics because like I think that's just
if I could have one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
If this is the strongest movie in terms of the characters aspect, especially the Guardians themselves, this was the best movie in terms of everybody had their shining moment. I think James Gunn did an amazing job with that. But I think a close second to Rocket in this movie was Nebula. I think she shines. Yeah, yes, if I can learn to speak English or Groot. She had the most character development or one of the best character developments over the course of the 3 movies. And if you want to throw in the Avenger movies that the Guardians crossed over with as well, she went from full villain as Thanos' soldier to pretty much the leader of the Guardians. Hold on. In a way, one of the true leaders of the Guardians, because she was the weaponry. She was leading the counterattack when Adam Warlock attacked Rocket. Peter was the emotional mess, still grieving over Gamora. Why won't she come back to me? I think she was a real standout in this film. Spade?
Nebula was not a villain ever. Nebula was just a soldier for Thanos. And she was just trying to make her daddy happy.
Nebula was a rival for Gamora.
Huh?
Nebula, I felt like was straight up a rival for Gamora.
Yes, that's it.
If we're talking D&D again, just for a hot second, Gamora's player was straight up just like, yeah, I have the sister. She hates me because I've just always been like better than her. And the DM is just like, you know what? Yeah, sure. I could work that in there. Absolutely. Sure. No problem. And that's how we got Nebula. And I will say, I will agree with Pancakes though, in the sense that like Nebula has stepped up so much, like not like in terms of like running nowhere out of like in the end of the movie, which I think was phenomenal. And Nebula, I also feel like does get a lot of praise, but doesn't get enough praise. You know what I mean?
I think she's one of the best written characters in the MCU in terms of personal growth. I think she's like has one of the most complete arcs.
Okay.
Everything she's been through from Guardians 1 up until now, including like the Avengers, like Infinity War, Endgame, all that stuff. Like she has like one of the most complete arcs amongst like all the other Avengers, in my opinion.
Yeah, and she has the prettiest black eyes that Thanos picked out.
Oh
God! Listen, I agree. Now I have talking sickness. I agree with Quill. Okay, absolutely. He picked some good ones.
Karen Gillan, maybe. Nebula, not my type personally, but you do you, Peter Quill. I don't know. But
Can we Grim go off on a certain character? I've been waiting for this.
Before I get into that, I do have to apologize to Johnny because in the theater I was just looking like the entire time, just saying,
"Yeah,
fuck.
No, and I said, no, there's no way in hell he's going to write them two together. No way in hell, especially with everything going on between him and Gamora. But
well, the two sisters reverse roles. That was
okay. Could work.
I never realized that, but you know what? You're right. Yeah, another reason why James Gunn was a genius with this movie. But I wanted to talk about more about Rocket's backstory though, because I think that's like that's easily like the most standout part of this movie is just his flashback scenes.
Oh my god!
Just how like I said before, just how dark they allowed this part of the story to get. I think everybody who watches this movie will agree that you will like this is the part of the movie that sticks with you like after you leave the theater. I knew going in that there were articles starting to go around saying like it might be a lot for like kids to watch. And I remember thinking like to myself, like CGI animals, it's Rocket, it's the talking raccoon of the MCU. How bad could it be? I left the theater like I'm gonna have some nightmare tonight. I can't like I'm gonna go like just march for animal rights. Like the movie went full into animal abuse. Like that was the overarching theme that didn't even. Like they didn't even hold back on at all.
Mm-hmm.
How he made friends with like the other, failed experiments, like Lila the otter and like the talking walrus, the rabbit with the spider, T Floor and Lila, and just to see them get killed before his eyes, seemingly at his own doing, because the villain who we haven't even spoke about yet, High Evolutionary, who is by far one of the most evil beings to come out of the MCU.
He was scarier than Kang.
Yeah,
I was about to say, listen, bold statement right now we're going to get hate from it. Don't care. Everyone else stands by me with saying this. If you don't, I'm going to get you. This is probably a better villain than Kang. Yes. I wish Kang was this.
I was going to say that. Yes.
Good.
I agree.
Oh my God.
With the
I said he was scarier.
Quantum Mania Kang did not have like a fraction of the layers to like his actions and his character that High Evolutionary did. Mm-hmm. He was just a straight up villain. He was just a terrible guy. You hated his guts. That like technically his like the fight at the end like was almost anticlimactic because he was taken out pretty quickly. But you hated him so much at that point that it was just so satisfying to like watch him get a beat down.
When I realized he was really like he was better than Kang. The fact that he goes, "There is no God, that's why I'm here," or something to that extent. When he said that,
that's why I stepped in.
Yeah,
right
that
there.
That line goes so hard.
Evil.
Yes. Oh my! He had a God complex to like the most sickening extent. I mean, he had Counter Earth, where like his experiments were like boosting up the evolutionary traits of every animal and turning them into like humanoids, making a whole society out of them. And that part of the movie that was sick, but at the same time, that was James Gunn and his James Gunniest.
Listen,
that was a ridiculous scene. But honestly, we needed that. We needed that kind of scene after like the heartbreak of the Rocket flashbacks, because that was it was almost too much in my opinion. But
here's another thing though with that. It also I made this joke, and I've made it more times since then, and other people have been saying, "Oh my God, I hate that you're right with this." According to this movie, furries are the penultimate race. So take that how you will. Yes, it needed to be repeated. Yes, those groans need to be made. Was it the intention? Don't know, but it's what we got.
When you pointed that out in the theater, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, you're right.
And I asked you to tell me I was wrong, and you couldn't.
Well, if anything, I feel like it discouraged furries rather than encourage that lifestyle.
Listen.
Okay, man. I gotta get myself together.
So I mean, overall, I think it was a good balance of just like action, comedy, heartbreak, and just like very dark themes. But like James Gunn, he went all in. I think we're running on some time right now. I think really quick, if you guys want to talk about like music, obviously, every Guardians movie
soundtrack was awesome.
Sick. Yeah, as usual. I mean, the Volume 3 soundtrack was, in my opinion, just as good as 1 and 2.
I will agree,
James Gunn never misses.
But the placement of the songs in this, I felt like was what the hell, because something extremely traumatic happens, and then let's have a feel-good song going on right after that. It's like,
well, that's kind
bro,
of
what the hell?
That's the theme of the whole trilogy. Like,
watch the other two. No. This one hit harder though. The other ones was like, yeah, okay. This one hit harder.
Yeah, there were definitely higher stakes.
Rocket almost dying in the first scene. You know what? Pancakes, I'm going to make you happy. I'm going to make you happy just for a brief moment. Adam Warlock.
Oh, geez, we didn't talk about him yet. Oh, no.
No, we didn't. Here's what we're going to talk about. Adam Warlock, I felt like if there's like one bump in this entire movie, it's Adam Warlock. I felt like this was not handled well. The excuse that they gave for it was, oh, they popped him out of his egg too early or whatever. It's a piss poor excuse.
It was obvious that James Gunn felt obligated to add him in because he realized the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the post-credit scene is when you see him in his cocoon, and we hadn't heard anything about him since. So he was like, we got to fit him in here somewhere, guys.
Because of that,
figure it out.
I feel like this was a studio choice. That
I think
studio probably pushed this on.
I think it was an oh shit moment by James Gunn. That was probably the one part of this movie where I think it was his decision, but he had little choice. I could tell he didn't want him to be in this movie, but he had to have him in the movie.
But that's the thing, though. Again, it's a studio choice because they shoehorned him in a final credits scene in the second movie. You technically didn't have to do it now if you really didn't want to. The studio was like, oh, well, you have to. And it's like, oh, great. Now how am I going to do this? All right, fine. Now he's in. Are you happy now? And
I don't think so. I think you're wrong on that. I think that in a future movie, you're going to see the Guardians back and Adam Warlock doing more Adam Warlock.
We already know that because we saw that in the end credits. Like, oh, yes, he's now part of the Guardians now.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like, this is his origin story. You can't be perfect in your origin story.
Yes, you actually can. You can have very good origin stories, just not like this.
But I understand. There's way too many stories in this movie to sit there and give him a full-fledged.
This one should have been handled a lot better.
Grim, what was the word you used? Well, Grim, what was the word you used in the theater to describe Adam Warlock?
I used a lot. You're gonna have to remind me, and it was so long ago. Many tequila shots later.
One word starts with the letter U. Useless. You said he was useless.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, just like how I've been kind of by trying to remember that term. Literally useless. Okay, another thing that just like this is a nitpick, and I'll make it brief. I promise. I didn't like his diction with this. Adam Warlock had a very distinct way of speaking in video games and comics, and they just shoehorn that out of here. Literally, I just came to this realization right now. Adam Warlock is a new Thor in the bad way.
I was going to say that they were trying to parody the original Thor 1 and 2 Thor, how he spoke in those movies.
Yeah, but I'm like, this is not how you do it. Like that. Honestly, that's what I think of the future. That Spade says, oh, they're going to make him a lot better. No, they're going to make him the new Thor in a bad way. In Ragnarok and Love and Thunder kind of way.
I will say
Ragnarok, okay. Love and Thunder, no.
Yeah, well, we're not going to get into that. We're not going to get into that. This video has gone on long enough, I think. But very quickly before we go, overall thoughts, guys. I mean, don't have to give a score, but I think overall this was the best post Endgame movie best structured Endgame movie we've had since Endgame. Definitely better than anything I've seen in Phase 4 movie wise.
I was pleasantly surprised with the ending that he didn't kill off anybody. He came pretty damn close with Rocket and Star-Lord, but Rocket he saved from the going into the afterlife, and Star-Lord looks like he was gonna be frozen. And the one useful thing Adam Warlock did was save his life. But I was pleasantly surprised that they all went their separate ways, alive and well. Yeah. That was an interesting, unlike James Gunn ending, but I still liked it a lot. But overall, best Guardians, the strongest Guardians, I believe. I stand by that too.
I still think Peter Quill should have died in that scene.
That was a studio decision. I think would be the fact that they all,
especially because
I think James Gunn probably wanted them to have a happy ending, I guess. But I think in the back of his mind, he probably would have wanted to kill Quill off and give him
No, he should have died. There's no way that. What was it? Okay, let's think logically, right? He was in space for what? 5, 6, 7 seconds before Adam Warlock came by and grabbed him.
He should have died there. I wholeheartedly agree. His face was swelling up and everything.
I was about to say, if anything, fine. You want to save him? Okay, fine. He should be horribly disfigured at the very least, because we saw his face blow up like to this like goo kind of looking thing, and I'm like, oh, it was bad. And then like he came back, and I was like, hey guys, I'm back. Everything's fine. Next scene, perfect face, and I'm like, one of these kids isn't like the other. What happened? We don't know. Marvel
They put the med pack on him. That's what it was. Remember that med pack? They put that on him, and he's perfectly fine now.
You know what? That's probably a better excuse from what I was thinking of.
Yeah. Everybody was kept alive. Now that I think of it, even High Evolutionary. Apparently, he's being kept in nowhere prison. So everybody lives. Yay! Happy ending for everybody.
Again, studio
means
decisions.
that they can all come back.
Thank God. Yeah. Listen, we need more villains to actually come back and not die. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, High Evolutionary, I think, like we said before, he was a better villain than we got with Kang and Quantumania. So I would love to see more of him for sure. Mm-hmm. But on that note, this is probably our longest video ever at this point. But those are our thoughts. Those are our spoiler talk for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Let us know down in the comments what you thought of the movie. Were you felt heartbroken? Did you think it was a powerful movie? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let us know down in the comments. While you're down there, give us a subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Give us a like. Ring that bell. We love all that stuff. Until then, we out. Roll credits.
Roll credits.
And leaving your helmet in a desk is a dumb fucking excuse.